Christopher Nolan is the big blockbuster movie director of the modern era, and I have seen all his movies in preparation for this video, where I'm going to rank all 12 of them. Following was Nolan's first movie with a bunch of friends, and it's pretty shit. I don't think any of Tarantino's movies are straight up bad, who was the last director I ranked, but Following definitely is. The plot is very hard to follow because of how complicated it is, and I know the guy is known for these complex and layered plots, but this one was executed horribly because of the low budget. The only positive element of the movie is that it's only like an hour long, so you don't have to sit through that much, but I really don't think I could name one thing that happened in this movie, and I just watched it. Definitely skip this movie, there's no good reason to watch this thing. 3 out of 10. The next 11 movies on the list are actually movies, and not just experimental shit that doesn't even feel legit, like Following. And the worst is Tenet. Nolan is the sci-fi guy. He makes a ton of sci-fi movies that do really well, and a large part of that is because of the creative ideas that Nolan has for his movies. But Tenet isn't really interesting. Time moving backwards isn't that unique or captivating of an idea to make a whole 2.5 hour movie about. Half of this shit is exposition, but at one point one of the characters literally says that you don't need to get it, you need to feel it. And I think the problem is that I didn't feel this thing. The whole movie is based off this stupid idea, and then they have to save the world, and it just feels lame, if I could describe it in a word. The main character is pretty good, and the acting is pretty good as well, and the soundtrack is also pretty great. But this movie just feels very underwhelming, and it thinks that it's smarter and more interesting than it really is. 4 out of 10. Everyone shits on The Dark Knight Rises nowadays, even fans of the first 2 movies, and I think that's justified, because this movie is not great at all. Nolan has a tendency to go all the way and make his movies really grand, and it doesn't work a lot of the times because the subject matter doesn't make for an interesting enough plot, and this movie is a major example of that. The first 2 movies are much more grounded and lower scale, while this movie feels more like an MCU movie, except a bad one. I actually like the MCU, and a big reason is that the cast is awesome and it's really funny, and The Dark Knight Rises is not funny at all, it's not even trying to be, and everyone except Christian Bale as Batman is pretty boring and has no interesting character development, so I just don't really give a fuck. It's just a superhero movie without the fun, and I don't want any part of it. 4 out of 10. Dunkirk is one of the least talked about Nolan movies, and that's because there's not really a lot to say about it, like it's just a war movie. Some of my favorite movies are war movies. I think they make great statements on humanity and also just provide a good time. At least some of them. A lot of them can be sickening and brutal to watch. And Dunkirk doesn't really do either. It's not funny, it doesn't have the cast to really be an entertaining movie, and the plot is uninteresting as well. But it doesn't really make a statement or an effort to be an anti-war movie either, so it's kinda just a movie with war in it, and I don't really give a fuck about it. I will say the movie looks pretty awesome, the visuals and colors are striking and vibrant and really pull you in, but a lot of the movie doesn't have that scenery, and in those moments, I just want to watch Apocalypse Now or some other good war movie. 5 out of 10. So I've kind of been dogging Nolan in these first 4 movies, and that's because I don't like any of them. I still don't like Memento, but at least it has some good qualities. But honestly, this is probably the least fun I had watching any Nolan movie other than Following. This shit is a chore to get through. The non-linear stuff is cool for about 10 minutes, and then I just got frustrated and tired. The non-linear shit I think Nolan did much better later in his career, and his first few attempts at it weren't handled well because they were just so confusing. I don't really like being confused watching movies, especially when there's no atmosphere or unique vibe being created, and Memento has no personality at all. It feels like one of those random big budget 90s crime movies, like The Usual Suspects or LA Confidential, that just don't hold up all that well. But at least The Usual Suspects has great acting and a legendary twist. Memento doesn't have anything of the sorts in my opinion. At least it's creative, I guess. 5 out of 10. I watched Oppenheimer in theaters and absolutely hated it because it was way too fucking loud. Yeah, it's a stupid reason, but I literally wanted to die and leave the room the entire runtime. I don't think I picked up on anything. I have horrible hearing from blasting shoegaze and black metal into my AirPods, so now sudden loud noises give me headaches, and let's just say Oppenheimer had a lot of those. But I finally rewatched the thing, and I would say it's a fine movie. Cillian Murphy, or Cillian Murphy, I still don't know how to pronounce his name, is really good and definitely the best part, and the ending stuff is some of Nolan's best and most creative work from a direction standpoint. But I was very bored for the majority of this 3-hour runtime. I kinda wish we just skipped to the bomb shit, because the exposition and backstory made me bored as hell and didn't really give me good insight on the character's history. I also think Robert Downey Jr., while acting pretty well, had a very uninteresting character, and I didn't really get the point of his character that much. Mark Ruffalo should have won that Oscar for Poor Things, in my humble opinion, but it's cool RDJ has an Oscar, I guess. Yeah, this movie is pretty epic and shit, but it's not really my thing. I think I do need to give it some more rewatches though. 6 out of 10. Batman Begins is a non-linear superhero movie, and I just wish it wasn't non-linear. It's just a standard Batman origin story, and Batman is probably my favorite superhero, but once you get past the aesthetic and vibe that the man had, it kind of falls apart. I will say this is the first Nolan movie on the list where I wasn't bored, but I just kind of thought this was a superhero movie that was pretty good at being a superhero movie, but the second one is better, and I just want to go watch Thor Ragnarok or some shit because it wipes with a fucking Kleenex. 6 out of 10. The Dark Knight is the most praised Nolan movie probably, and I think it's also the most praised superhero movie, and I think it's pretty good. It's definitely the best grim and dark superhero movie, but I don't usually like those. Spider-Verse and Guardians of the Galaxy sign me up, but these edgy superhero movies just aren't really my thing. It's just a little ridiculous watching these pajama-wearing dudes fight each other with insanely intense music and super over-the-top acting, and everything is pitch black. But this movie is good, I would say. I mean, the elephant in the room is Heath Ledger as the Joker, who absolutely steals the scene every time and deserves that Oscar, but every scene without him is just kind of like waiting for him to show up again. Yeah, I like this movie, but it's not really for me, so I guess it's kind of impressive it's even this high. I'll give it a 7 out of 10, I'm feeling generous today. Insomnia is the most underrated Nolan movie, but it's not great or anything. I like it, I had a good time, it was pretty locked in, and I actually think Nolan's direction shines here more than most movies he's made, just because it relies on it so heavily, as the plot and script is pretty standard. This was the last Nolan movie I ever saw, and I was kind of dreading it because I usually hate stupid crime stuff like this, especially from this era, but I was pleasantly surprised big time. I will say Pacino being the GOAT that he is might be a bigger reason this works to Nolan's unique and interesting direction, but it is a close second in why I like this movie. I didn't really like Robin Williams as a serial killer though, that was kind of weird, but I totally believe Pacino as an unhinged insomnia cop, and I think he gave a great performance. Yeah, this movie won't change your life or anything, but it's a fun crime movie with some good acting and some good direction. I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10. The Prestige is the first Nolan movie that I would say is great on this list. Yeah, I really like this movie. I've seen it like 3 times now, and it gets better every time. This isn't the best movie with non-linear storytelling, but I think it's the best use of non-linear storytelling in any Nolan movie. Like, it's all really easy to follow, and I think it's actually useful to the plot, as you can see the two men losing their shit and what caused it all. This movie has so many plot twists and reveals too, and it works with the whole magic thing. Like, there were 3 or 4 times where I literally went like, holy shit, while watching this, especially the ending scene, goddamn. I also think Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale are both awesome in this movie. They're intense and their growth and suffering feels real and genuine. David Bowie is in this too, as Nikola Tesla, and that's awesome. It's not perfect though. I think Scarlett Johansson's character is written horribly, and is the worst example of Nolan's female characters kind of sucking. I also think the movie kind of looks ugly. Like, compared to most Nolan movies, which look beautiful, this is pretty stale. But it's a great movie, still like an 8 out of 10. Yeah, I'm a basic bitch. My top 2 are like most people's top 2, but I do think Inception is notably worse than Interstellar. Inception, I think, has the most interesting concept out of any Nolan movie. I mean, entering dreams, come on, that shit is so cool, and it's actually executed well on top of that, which I think Nolan movies struggle with at times. The cast here is pretty great too. I mean, Leo is Leo, he's really good in it. But I also really like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, and Cillian Murphy's character was really interesting and provides some of the movie's best moments. The Leo wife stuff is actually damn good, and actually got me emotional at the end, unlike most Nolan movies where there isn't that much emotion. The final heist scene and the whole third act is totally awesome and gripping, and it makes up for the movie sometimes having a little too much exposition. Like, I was totally into that thing, which is very rare in heist type of movies. It also looks incredible. This movie gets a lot of love, and I think it's pretty damn deserved. It was my first Nolan movie, and I'd still give it like a 9 out of 10. Interstellar is easily my favorite Nolan movie, and just one of my favorite movies of the last 15 or even 25 years. I watched it a while ago, and it was one of the first movies that really got me into the movie world. I just fell in love with it immediately for so many reasons. The story is really interesting and unique, one of the best premises for any Nolan movie. Finding a whole planet to save up humanity could feel kinda absurd, but the way it's handled makes it intense and gripping the whole time. It never goes too over the top, no matter what new planet they go to, and all the planets look fucking incredible, especially the ice planet. The movie is so intense as well, like the wave scene, the fight on the ice planet, the docking scene. I mean, come on, this shit has you on the edge of your seat the whole time. But the real reason this movie works so well is because of how emotional and powerful it is. Nolan likes to shoehorn in some random family plot, but it really only works in Inception and especially in Interstellar. I mean, the scene where Matthew McConaughey watches his family grow up is one of the few scenes that has made me shed a tear. And the ending in The Black Hole where you see this dad regret his decision to leave his daughter, it's just heartbreaking. The acting, not just from McConaughey, though this is probably his best performance, even better than Dallas Buyers Club, is absolutely incredible, and this is definitely the best acted Nolan movie. Even Matt Damon, who I usually don't like, is great in this one. Technically, this movie is mind-blowing. I don't usually care too much about the effects, but sometimes it's just too glaring to ignore. Obviously, the soundtrack is phenomenal, but the whole movie sounds and looks amazing the entire time. This is just the ultimate Christopher Nolan movie, and it feels like he was trying to make this movie his whole career, and I don't think he'll ever come close to it again, as very few movies have. Easily a 10 out of 10.